It's been a long road, and now we are here. The Triad Wars 2 finals. Triad Wars 3 has begun. We're currently in round 3. We're going ahead with tournaments. This one's been a long time going, but we're here. We're at the finals. It's Sephiroth versus Delial. Sephiroth being an AI, Delial being a human we all know and loathe. And we're here, and we're ready for their finals. So I wanted to talk about Dudley's road to the finals, just go over each game he played. The first game was a little shaky. He did go, I'm playing AI at some point, because he was kind of thinking I'd asked him to play a tournament where he was going to be playing against like FF8 level AI that would just be this pushover walk in the park, completely uninteresting to play. And instead it was making more interesting moves. And he ended up missing the win here in 5, which is a pretty straightforward win. I think somewhere in his brain, he saw that there was the plus at the start, and then it just disappeared, and then he couldn't see it later, and he ended up going in 9 here. But I'm not exactly sure what he missed here. But he ends up missing the win here in round 1, going on to game 2, where he does build out the win nicely. He first plays 2-3-6-5 and 6, and then plays 4-3-2-6 and 9, and 6-6-3-2 is enough to capture at the end and win 6-4 to win easily and advance to round 2. In round 2, he had a much easier time. He ends up starting in 5 here with 5-7-5-7, intending for the rest of his hand to play well off it. And in this kind of complicated position, he found the really nice move 4-6-8-7 and 8, which just puts tremendous pressure on the opponent. The key problem is they actually, because they have nothing good for 6, and because he's specifically set up against 5, they have one card good for 6, 5-8-8-3, but he has now set up the plus against it with 7-8-6-4 and 7 when he goes in 8, that they cannot play in either 2 or 6 because he can respond comfortably in the other one and has 7-8-6-4 to sweep at the end. So a really nice way to set up a finishing sweeper. I thought this was a great move. I think the opponent's has only maybe one tie, and it's like 5-2-8-7 and 6, or something weird in 6. Sorry, something weird in 4. I keep saying 6 when I mean 4. Something weird in 4. But so to recap, because I just screwed up saying this completely, 4-6-8-7 in 8 makes sure his 7-8-6-4 can sweep in the squares 4 and 7. And that means any move the opponent could make in 2 or 6, he can meet in the other one and have this sweeper at the end to win. And just really nicely solved, and very hard to save this, and they certainly didn't. So a great round 2, really good win there. Round 3 was really scary, by far the scariest round Delial played. He was in trouble early, probably losing, but managed to get to this position, I think playing pretty decently given the pressure he was under, and ends up finding 4-6, 4-7, and 9 here, which is the only tie to just escape in the first game and make it on to game 2. But game 2, he switches to using Power Seraph in his hand, and this proves a huge disaster, and he reaches this really dangerous L, where they don't have a threat in 5, but his cards all end up, in all the lines you look at, end up being kind of badly organized to do much, because he has no capture in 7. He still needs to defend the 2 square, and he doesn't really have good ways to do it. And there was some controversy here because he said a move in 7, but he accidentally said the move in 4, and that was a mess because 4 is losing while 7 is the only tie, but he manages to sneak out another tie here with 7-6-2-4 and 7. And in game 3, for some reason, he keeps Power Seraph in his hand. Why did he keep using Power Seraph? And gets just another horrible looking position. But after a slightly offbeat move in 8 by his opponent, Race, 7-6-3-2 and 8, he pulls out a surprise win with 3-6-2-6 and 1, which turns it around and snags the win and survives this incredibly scary round in round 3. I cannot reiterate enough that, this was not smooth sailing to the final. This could have all been over in round 3, but he did defend brilliantly on the way there to survive this round. In round 4, Kuja in the quarterfinals made some slightly odd moves. Dully was expecting them to go in 1 in response to his corner starter in 3, and rather than that, they went in 9, which was a little strange, and followed it up a little weird, but this position proved not quite enough for Dully to be able to push for a win, and he ended up playing Bahamut in 5 here and headed pretty directly to a tie. Moved on to game 2, where the AI again played a touch strangely, and here Delial successfully took advantage of it with 2-6-A8 and 6, with the point being that they can plus wall from 3, but he can combo back, and even though they get to make the last move in 5, they can't capture basically anything from there, which is a goofy way to finish a game. So, nice advancement to the semifinals. In the semifinals, he took on Turds, his only a human opponent for the run. Turds was the only other human to make it to the semifinals, and the only other human to make it to the quarterfinals, for that matter. And Turds and Deli, great rivals. I put up a preview video of their head-to-head record. They are 5-4 lifetime in TTA tournaments. If we count this tournament, Deli now leads 6-4, or TTA and TTN. 5-4, now 6-4. In the first game, Deli applies a little pressure here with 6-7, 6-3, and 4, but he also found the really creative idea and ended up not pulling the trigger on it of 8-2, 7-7, and 7, which really cleverly notes the opponent, Turds, cannot play the same in 5 because Deli has the combo in 4, and he wants to kind of pair off the board. He wants 4 and 5 to be paired. They can't go in 5 because I have 4, and he also wants 6-8, 1-8 to be this beater on the bottom row, this really dominant card, and is trying to leave those squares open so 8 and 9 can be for 6-8, 1-8, and 4 can be set up as a response to 5, and Turds would have had only one save there, which was a move in 9. So really good pressure idea, ends up not pulling the trigger, still plays 6-7, 6-3, and 4, which is still a very good move, and Turds has to be careful to tie it. Finding a nice way to apply pressure out of an opening that looked like Turds was playing very comfortably and well. In the second game, again against quite good Turds play, Deli manages to push again, playing in 7 here, 6-8, 1-8, and 7, where Turds has to be quite careful with the formations he sets up to find a tie. He ends up finding a tie in 3 with 5-8, 7-4, but again, Deli finding ways against good play to create pressure and create ways for them to go wrong. And in game 3, the most complex of the games, after Deli makes a really unbalancing move in 2, setting up Turds as 5-7, 5-7 to have a combo in 3, setting up all kinds of potential combos down the road around 5, in this really complex position where then Turds adds to the complications by going in 7 with 5-8, 7-4. Delial pulls out the win with the fantastic 7-2, 8-7 in 6, knocking out Turds, showing that Turds does not have anything in the square 3, and each of his cards is not good for both 4 or 8, so Deli can force whichever card he's left with to go in the wrong square. Specifically attacking that 7-6-4-4, which is great in 8, but not so good in 4. So really wonderful win, really well calculated at the end, but also nice pressure throughout. And I think overall in the match, while Turds played very well, Delial played even better and was managing to apply slight pressure in the first 2 games, even though it looked like Turds was making kind of unquestionably good moves to my eyes. So he knocks out Turds, an incredibly strong opponent, and advances to the finals, of which we will watch game 1 today. If there is a winner, they win. If it is a tie, I will do one video for each game played to not spoil results, but if something stops early, that must mean that there was a decisive result. So, in summary, Delial played 11 games on the way here. He won 5 and he tied 6. His toughest 2 matchups, accounting for 4 of his 6 ties, were against Race Dular in round 3 and Turds in the semifinals, each achieving 2 ties. I meant to say achieving a 3-game match, but 2 ties, 1 loss for each. I think Delial's best winning move and his best win was against Turds, though his win in round 2 was really excellent as well, and his best saves were all against Race. All of those games he was in. Those were the only games he was ever in trouble, and every single one of them he was in enormous trouble, but managed to pull those out. His starter decisions, he used 1 center starter to win his round 2 game, and all his other starters were corner starters. Some were stronger corners, some were weaker corners. Against opposing play, he met 1 center starter, and he met it with a weak corner play, and that ended up being his win against Turds. He met 1 side starter and met it with the side across from it. And against corner starters, interestingly, he played next to 3 of the 4 corner starters he faced on the way here. Capturing once and just playing next to it twice, just kind of blocking a square and directing the game. Both those games he was certainly in... Well, one of those games he was in danger, the other he won in his quarterfinals. But really interesting to see that many plays next to someone's starting corner, because those were not the most common moves. And he played an adjacent corner against one other, which is much more standard play and a move I like a lot. So that's the summary of Delial's tournament so far, and now we begin the semifinals. Sephiroth versus Delial, Triad Wars 2, the finals, game 1, Sephiroth, his first turn. I'm going to talk a little bit about Sephiroth in both players' hands. Firstly, this is a hand Delial has used in the past, though not for a while. He was having a little trouble remembering it, but thought he got it. And it's a hand that plays nicely, right? It's got these twos that play off each other, and the opponent's hand is unlikely to have the twos. It has these A9 opposites that are, of course, very powerful. The 5-5-8-6 ends up playing well with all the sideways 9s, and can also sometimes play off Elveret's upward 7 or certain downward A's. It gives some coverage to have double numbers facing various directions. And Elveret both balances out the hand, but also makes for a pretty comfortable starter, because most hands on this kind of rule set, I should say the rule set, what an idiot, 6 through 10, one card from each level, no rares, no other stipulations. So Elveret does a nice job of finishing out the hand, but also offers some numbers that the opponent's hands might not be able to play so well off, and that hopefully his hand is good at capturing and using, and gives a starter in 7 that both has powerful outfacing numbers, the hand is pretty good at recapturing, and most importantly, gets the weakest card out of the hand. Sephiroth's hand, on the other hand, I just stole a hand. I had the records of the finals game I played versus MC and Essie Rufus in 2011, and I liked MC's hand, and I stole it to use it here against Delial for Sephiroth to play. Will Sephiroth play it as well as MC did, or better or worse? We'll see. But that's the hands. I also, just a touch on Sephiroth's AI. Sephiroth is an incredibly good calculator. So if Delial is losing with 5 moves left, Sephiroth is gonna efficiently defeat him every time. If it's a tie, Sephiroth will always be finding those ties. So very good calculator. Also should have good early gameplay, but this big strength is calculation. Going to be very good at spotting difficult moves to save or win tough positions or advantageous positions. So Sephiroth is first turn, and Sephiroth starts with Squall in 9. And Deli goes Elveret in 7 and Cypher in 5. Both look good at first glance but have downsides. He goes on to elaborate that Elveret in 7 gives up the plus wall in 4 to 7774 Ultima Weapon, and that can be pretty uncomfortable down the road. And while it gives him a nice play in 8 with 5586, it gives them 4, so it's not clear who that's giving more combo potential to, though I think that is a very good move. Cypher in 5 uses up Delial's best card, and but sets up 7834 Elveret in both 6 and 8 beautifully. And while it also sets up 8734 Flame Eater for Sephiroth in 6, it doesn't give them any particularly good plays in 8, though it does give up the 7774 plus wall. And he also thought if Cypher in 5, maybe they have Ultima 49A4 in 1. That's the move he was scared of there. He does end up going for Cypher in 5, and Sephiroth does not play Ultima in 1. So I just want to talk about that a little, because I thought that was an interesting move. Because it looks to me kind of intuitively bad, because Sephiroth can just take it with A229 and Delial can just take it with A229 and 2, and Sephiroth cannot take back the A down. But actually, because he's gotten rid of all of Delial's upward strength at that point, could play something like 7774 and 3, and has a pretty good position and should be able to at least tie there. But the big problem, the reason 49A4 and 1 is a bad move, is because that card is needed to recapture an 8. So Deli's correct reply would be something like A229 and 6, capturing Squall, locking that in with a huge advantage and probably winning position. So Sephiroth doesn't go for that, but I think does show one of the weaknesses these AI might have, which is I don't yet have them well set up. Sorry about that red line on the right. But I don't yet have them well set up to reliably handle these split level rule sets, because he's using up a lot of power early, right? He's used up basically all his leftward power in the first 2 cards, which is very risky. And has also used the level 10 and the level 8 early, which is also quite risky, especially on first turn, where you're going to have to use all your cards. Now, Sephiroth is a very good first turn calculator, so this may not prove risky at all for him, but we'll see. It definitely has risk involved. Deli goes, but he doesn't have 2. Noting that Sephiroth has no way to recapture their card in 1 from 2. And no good way to deal with me putting Multi-Gemini in 4. So 2 moves very clearly in Deli's mind. One is A229 in 4, just capturing the card in 1 and locking it in. And the other is 5586 in 4. And I think it's interesting. A229, you might point out, doesn't quite lock it in, because there is some combo potential in response. But of course, anytime Sephiroth combos in 6 or 8, Deli has the combo back in the other square. Now, depending on the formation, he might not be able to do that at a given moment, but it seems pretty likely he'll be able to combo back. I don't think A229 is all that vulnerable to combos. But the reason he ends up going for 5586, and I think the real reason this is a better move than going with A229, is because if you think of the Z setup here, if Sephiroth makes a move in 6, say they use 49A4 in 6, after Deli goes A229 in 4, we can go back to make that easier to look at. So Deli goes in 4 with A229, and they go in 6. And I think they hold the tie there. They don't have leftward power, but they have enough going, I think, to get the tie in that position. And I should have re-looked at it before making this video so I could give some lines there. But if we compare that to the position after 5586 in 4, in this position, the safe card for Deli is in 4. In that position, the safe card for Deli is in 1. And that's going to make huge difference here, because now if Sephiroth goes in 6, Deli can go in 2 and add the card in 1 to the card in 4 he'd already locked in. Well, in the other line, if Deli had played A229 in 4 and they go in 6, suddenly 2 only locks in the one card he'd already locked in, right? And he's going to have to look at squares like 7 to lock in a second card. And if he goes there, first of all, he doesn't necessarily have a great card to put there. 2929 is going to get plus walled by 8734. So I guess he can do it with 7834, but he wants to hold on to that card because that card's so good for 8. So anyways, my point is, I think a really smart realization on Delial's part here was that it is more valuable to have the safe card in 4 and access to attack the card in 1 than it is to have the safe card in 1 and have a vulnerable card in 4. So I thought this was a really nice positional understanding of which card matters, because I think a lot of us see a card we can lock in and we sort of go to take. You can take a card and make that card safe, and Delial doesn't need to take it. He'll help the opponent lock it in while building out his own safety. Sephiroth goes in 2, and Delial thought this was a poor move, though I think it's fine. I think there's not any better than this. He was pointing out it is their best card for the bottom row. This is their most important card. It can deal with the 2929, right? Because if the 2929 goes in 7, it can plus wall from 8. If the 2929 goes in 8, of course, it can plus from 7. And so it really does handle a lot of Deli's cards on the bottom row. But I think we're just going to get the same result, whether Sephiroth makes this move or any other, though it may have made the path simpler, because Deli goes 2929 and 7 and thinks, I think I'm winning here, and he is correct. And we play out the game, and Deli wins 6-4. He's your champion of Triad Wars 2. Congrats to Deli. Great win. Thanks to all the competitors. I think in some ways this looks like a pretty straightforward win, and I don't think it's particularly complicated, but I do think it's not a strange kind of finals game. I think there are lots of finals games where it looks kind of straightforward. One person made good moves and the other person doesn't seem to resist. But that's how so many decisive games of Triple Triad went between good players, because neither player is really miscalculating at the end, so they're not allowing some spectacular shot or anything like that. What's instead happening is someone got a feel for what was going on early and the other person didn't. and that person just smoothly rides to this winning position. And I remember watching some Slash of Time victories, and obviously Slash was very capable of spectacular moves, but a lot of his wins against really good players, I remember a win against me, I remember a win against Yojimbo, were just him making very normal looking moves, but making them really well, right? There's these little gradations between normal looking moves that differentiate between the kind of excellent and the okay. And I think this was just an example of kind of making all the moves just right, just nicely done, nicely executed at each point. I think 5, 5, 8, 6, and 4 was a really good move with a couple tempting options. I talked about a different move in 4, but there were some other ideas there too that didn't work out as well. And from move 4, Delial locked in the win, and I think did so quite nicely. So congrats to Delial, huge win. It's really cool to get our first human champion of these tournaments. I may try to spice up and make the AI more difficult. We'll see how Triad Wars 3 goes. If all the AIs get stomped there, I will probably start upping the difficulty. If the AIs stomp humans, I will be happy to leave it where it is. My temptation is I think this is a good difficulty for AIs right now, and for Triad Wars tournaments I'm going to keep this difficulty, and if I want to have harder AIs, I might start a new tournament just for specifically harder ones to make this one consistent over time. And because I think it is a really good challenge. You know, it's no coincidence that we had 4 humans here. 1 made the finals, 2 made the semis, 2 made the quarters. These are tough opponents. And Delial, of course, could have very easily gone out in round 3. And I think if he had been facing Sephiroth in round 3, he would have gone out that round. Power Seraph really didn't work well for him there. But he also did play brilliantly to defend those games. And I think fantastically throughout. I'd still say his best game of the tournament was clearly his semifinals win over Turds, though I still really like his round 2 victory as well. And I think he had some really great saves in round 3 as well. So very well-deserved victory. Huge congrats to Delial, the champion of Triad Wars 2. One quote from him, celebrating the real hero of the event. He said, and I quote exactly, "Was up as the greatest tournament organizer ever. I owe it all to him." So I leave you with these wise words. He also said, and actually said, that he encourages more people to sign up. This was a lot of fun. He had a good time. And that I may not be the greatest tournament organizer ever, but this is the best thing currently available in Triple Triad. Sentiment Tezuka has also said. And I really hope if you would like to play some Triple Triad, you'll be interested in playing these tournaments. They're a lot of fun. Triad Wars 3 is currently ongoing. After Triad Wars 3, we're going to have a Random Wars, which is going to be an all-random tournament. And then I'm not sure where we're going to go from there. I have a few ideas. We'll probably have another Triad Wars, but I have some really wacky ideas I think I'm going to make videos about soon. But enough about that. The core thing here is Delial, champion of Triad Wars 2. Huge congratulations. You played fantastically, and it was so fun to get to watch you and get to record your games and just have them forever to look at and mock you for the mistakes you made.